Good morning, students. Now we are going to start our revision video. As we have completed all the chapters, just a small recap. In each chapter, which kings ruled the dynasty of our India, like that we can see. Okay. In eighth chapter, Babur, Humayun and Shesha. About three of them we have studied. Yeah, in complete chapter we have seen about they three, how they ruled the Mughal Empire and all. The first battle of Panipat comes the main thing, then battle of Kanwa and military expansion, conquest of Gujarat and Malwa, then Humayun's return, then Humayun's exile, then we saw Shesha's administration, how it was and how he made his huge administration in a proper manner, and military organization how it was and all we saw, right? Communication system, trade and commerce, revenue system and land assessment. These are the main things we have to see in chapter 8, and already we have seen it. No need to go so deep in explanation because already it has covered in last chapter and session. Okay. In communication system, the Grand Trunk Road was built by Shesha, right? This is the main thing you have to note down it, that Grand Trunk Road. So the Grand Trunk Road was the longest and the most important of the major roads that he built, right? It was connected from Sonargaon in the modern Bangladesh and in the east to Peshawar in modern Pakistan in the southwest. So it was so longly connected from Bangladesh to Pakistan. Okay, in this only you can see that he was so lovable about his religion. From Bangladesh through Pakistan he had made a grand trunk road, so much long trunk road he had made it. Because of that only trade and commerce, his commerce were boostable and very greatly growth became in that. Okay. In a military organization he was very disciplined and he used to fix according their skill and abilities of the officers. He used to fix their salaries and personal interests. Okay, he used to appoint them according to their skills and training of the soldiers. So we can see next chapter about Akbar. Who was Akbar? Akbar was Humayun's son, right? In 8th chapter we saw first battle of Panipat, means in second chapter second battle of Panipat, right? Then main thing, conquest of Akbar, what all he did, like that we saw in that. Subjection of the Rajputs. Subjection of the Rajputs means how did Akbar relationship was with Rajputs and what all things he made to mingle with Rajputs. He used a friendly system, right? Conflicts with Rana Uday Singh. main thing you have to learn about it. Just small recap. Conquest with Rana Uday Singh is the Rana of Mewar. Means this is because of this war became because of Mewar. Okay. And conflicts with Rana Pratap Singh. This conflict became because of Chittoor, the capital city of Rana Pratap. Okay, when he lost his Chittoor, that time this conflict was happened. Okay, then we can see the Deccan campaigns. Having expanded and consolidated his authority over northern and central India. He consolidated and expanded his authority from northern to central India. Okay. Khandesh and the part of Ahmednagar. And there are some mountains and rivers that we have to know. In 40 years before, Akbar carved out a empire that stretched from the Hindu Kush mountain in the west to the Brahmaputra in the east, and from the Himalayas in the north to the Godavari in the south. It was expanded from there to there. Okay. Then administration of Akbar, how it was like that, you all know, right? Central administration was there. This administration was totally excellent, right? Then the Mansabdari system he brought into his period. Mansab means office or rank. Office or rank means is a holder of a rank in the administration. The civil and military administration of the court was based on the Mansabdari system introduced by Akbar. Okay. Then next comes revenue system. Revenue system. Land was the main source of the revenue. This all you know, right? Land was the revenue system in those periods. Then Akbar's religion policy. He was most lovable of his religion. Okay. Then Abdat Khan. Who was Abdat Khan? Akbar built Abdat Khan or the wall of prayer. Abdat Khan is a hall which was built by Akbar to do prayers. Okay. Rajput policy. Akbar impressed Rajputs for the patriotism. Okay. He was impressed by his patriotism. Then comes social and cultural achievements. What all social and cultural achievements did by Akbar was he prohibited sati systems and he legalized the remarriages of the widows. Okay, he discourages the child marriage also. And minimum age of marriage was raised to 14 years for girls and 16 years for boys. This content was the bride and the bridegroom had to be taken before a marriage was performed. In cultural and social achievements, he like this all systems he brought into this period. Okay, Akbar's 9 gems. When I was taking Akbar's chapter, I have showed you each and every 9 gems. 9 gems means 9 Navaratnas. It means Navaratnas. Who were the 9 Navaratnas in the period of Akbar's court? Their names all I have listed in the Akbar chapter video. Okay, if you want to look it out, you can go and check it in once again the Akbar's link. Okay, next chapter 10, Jahangir, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. About this three, we no need to be saying so much that everyone knows Jahangir and Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, right? Jahangir was Akbar's son, Salim, and later he was called as Jahangir. Okay. Conquest of Mewar. Rana Amar Singh of Mehar, who like his father Rana Pratap Singh. Okay. He refused to acknowledge the overlordship of Mughal emperor. The Rana of the Mewar was defeated. This happened in the Mewar conquest. Okay. Loss of Kandahar. You can see here, just here is a loss of Kandahar and Naujan. Who was Naujan? Naujan was Jahangir's wife. Just take a recap about Naujan. She was a beautiful woman and most educated and well talented, intelligent and well cultured too. Okay. Naujan meaning is light of the world. She was also an artist and creativity. She had so many creativities in her things, and fashion designer also. Trends by designing new variety of silks. She was physically strong and courage and went on hunting tours with her husband. Even she used to go for hunts with Jahangir. Okay, this is a small thing about Naujan. And next comes Shah Jahan. Everyone knows that Shah Jahan built Taj Mahal in the memory of his wife Mumtaz Mahal. Okay. He was also called as Engineering King. He was splendid and cultural brilliance made him to call as Engineering King. Okay. And his period was called as Golden Age of Mughal Empire. These are the main things you need to keep in mind about Shah Jahan. And Taj Mahal, which he built, came in the position of new seven wonders of the world. It also came in the name of seven wonders in the world. Okay, next we can see about Aurangzeb and his Deccan policy. So, last of the great Mughal Empire acceded the throne in the 1656 after the empires acceded the throne. A bloody war of secession, his region of almost 50 years covering the second half of 17th century saw the expansion of the Mughal Empire into largest single state. Okay, this is Deccan policy about Aurangzeb. Then Aurangzeb's later region. The vastest of the Mughal Empire with its remote frontiers provinces. Changes in the administration provinces for the extension and revival of the Akbar's religion. He succeeded in crushing some of this uprising, but at very heavy cost. The draining of the economic and military sources of the empire was succeeded. Okay. Then Ansias of Bijapur and Golconda. These two states proved harmful to the Mughal Empire in 1657. Okay, became too vast in unwidely and brought the Mughal empires into direct contact with the Maratha. Because of Bijapur and Golconda war, it brought direct contact to the Maratha war. The Maratha war was done by Sambhaji Shivaji. Chhatrapati Shivaji, right? Shivaji's son, his successor Sambhaji, was captured and executed. The capital, the Maratha capital, was occupied by the Mughal forces. Sambhaji's son Shahu and rest of the families were imprisoned. Rajaram, Sambhaji's young brother, managed to escape. Then later on, Shivaji drained out all the Maratha rule into Mughal rule. Then they drained the treasures of the Mughal treasury and ruined the economic of the Deccan. Okay. Finally, the Mughal were vanished. All were collapsed. Mughal provinces were collapsed, and all victories were under the rule of British in India for nearly 200 years. Next chapter is 11. Chapter number 11, Bhakti and Sufi movements. Actually, it is done recently, this chapter, so no need to explain so deeply. Just you can see upper side which are the main points of this. Okay. Causes for the rise of Sufi movements. What was the causes of it? After the death of Prophet and Muhammad, religion differences arose between two sects of the Muslim community, the Shias and the Sunnis. Okay, this rise to Sufi movement. Causes for the rise of Bhakti movement was, with the passes of the time, Hindu religion had become rigid and complex. It became harder and difficult, and many evil practices and beliefs had crept into Hindu society. Due to this, the rise of the Bhakti movement came. Okay, teachings of Sufi. The Sufis were the group of Muslim mystis who started a religion reform movement in the West Asia. Mystis are people who try to attain knowledge and become unity with God through prayers and meditation. This teaching was taught by Sufism. Okay, teachings of Bhakti saints. Sorry. So one more thing I want to say is that in teachings of Sufism, there is only one God and all peoples are his children. They were teaching all human beings are equal and everyone should be respected, like that they were saying in their religion. In Bhakti movement, devotion to the God, it was taught. And reform movement with Hinduism, it became in South Indian in 17th century and became a popular movement before arrival of the Turkish. The Bhakti saints drew their inspiration from the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. Mainly, Bhakti saints were followed Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Then next comes about Ramananda and Sant Kabir, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Mirabai, the Alvas and Ayers, Shankar Janeshwar, Jnaneshwar. Sikhism was founded by Guru Nanak. Okay. Impact of the religion movements. These all we have already covered it. So just study it well. Okay, then finally now we are going to see history. We have completed. Now civics 1 chapter, it is 13th chapter, directive principle of state policy. In this, main thing is features of welfare state, principles promoting economic equality, features of welfare state, how we can bring out welfare state, and how should we help to get a proper welfare state, and what should be followed by them, like that all we can see. Okay, principles promoting economic equality. Principles promoting economic equality, how economic equality should be done and how it should be followed by rules and regulations, it will teach us. Okay, and Gandhian principles and general principles you can study in books. Okay, fundamental rights and directive principle. Fundamental right says that fundamental rights can be proved in front of law, but directive principles cannot be proved in front of law. These two differences you can keep in your mind. Fundamental rights, which gives us right to education, right to freedom, right to exploitation, right again exploitation, right? These rights we will get in law, but directive principle is the thing what all we should do, that so that the country will be become welfare state. Okay, suppose save the water, save electricity, like this we should control to bring welfare state. Okay, implementation of directive principles, which all things made implementation of directive principles, what all things made directive principles to come into implementation. Okay, caste system, tribals, these all things, education of the children's, child marriages, jobs to the men and women, equal opportunity between them, these all made to bring implementation of the directive principle. Okay, so finally we have completed everything. This is our revision video. Just if you have any doubts or queries, you can go and check and revise it again and again. The videos are like that only. You can go and check and study it well. You can recall all the slides. You can study it well, read properly all the each and every slides which have been taught in the sessions while teaching you. Okay, all the best. This is our last video of this year. Wishing you a most amazing 21. See you. Bye. Thank you.